Welcome, everybody, to the Threshold podcast series, which is going to be led by Dr. Alia Podgornik and Emily Armitage. So this is a special podcast series that goes together with the new mastermind that we are launching. And this is going to be a podcast series for women entrepreneurs who are here to dismantle old power dynamics, to redefine leadership, and they're here to shape the future of entrepreneurship and beyond. The reason we're creating this is because the two of us have been in a over 6 month long conversation going back and forth now, really talking about how in the industry we're in the coaching industry specifically, it's a very interesting space because on the one hand, it's a space where we have so much freedom to really create what we desire, to really build things differently, to redefine what business is beyond maybe toxic, masculine, patriarchal, hustle culture, etc. But because we are swimming in the soup of patriarchal conditioning, a lot of the time we are still replicating the very systems that we claim that we're dismantling, where we are actually centering money, status, and personal gain as the pinnacle of success, rather than redefining what leadership and success are in the first place. So these conversations are for women entrepreneurs who have found themselves in rooms that looked powerful on the outside, but actually they felt off. And a lot of the time, there were maybe things you couldn't even name. You just knew that something wasn't quite right, where performance was branded as leadership. There was a lot of ego involved and called empowerment. Authority was mainly just a lot of visibility and loudness, and where the biggest month in someone's Stripe account actually mattered more than the depth of that person's work. There's also a lot of competition amongst women in these spaces, also competition from the attention from their mentor at the top, and where everybody's going to talk about how we are so supportive to each other, yada, yada, yada. But actually, no one is totally safe to speak honestly. No one really calls out things they're seeing. They're still conforming to some unwritten rule about what the hierarchy is like, what is allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. And there's a lot of hype as well. A lot of women that we have spoken to that are kind of tired of this industry, they've seen containers that were built on hype instead of depth. And it was about being bigger, being louder, bigger personality, it's constant output, hustle. And it's honestly just exhausting. And so we want to start having the conversation around a new paradigm of leadership, where money and success are a byproduct of alignment and meaningful work, where we start centering our mission, our purpose, our alignment, and the success, the money we create comes from that. So if you have felt that same tension that I'm naming here, if you've been in these rooms, if you've noticed things and couldn't quite pinpoint like why they felt off, you struggle to name it, I guarantee you're not alone. There's more and more people having these conversations, but we have seen that no one has actually created a space, a mastermind, where these conversations could be had and where we could be intentionally redefining leadership, where we can bring these power dynamics into the light and we can explore what leadership looks like when power is returned to where it actually belongs, which is you. So in this first episode, what we want to start exploring is common power leaks in high-level spaces, in mastermind groups, in mentorship. We want to actually address what is happening. We want to address based on our experience and our shared knowledge of, shadow work, personal development, human design, which is Emily's zone of genius, subconscious work, so the subconscious power dynamics at play. And we want to start also planting a seed and an idea that there could be a different way and what that may look like and how we're creating a space that is going to facilitate that. So I want to start this conversation first by actually handing the mic over to Emily, and I would like us to start sharing a little bit about what are some things we saw in the mastermind spaces, the groups that we've been in, that maybe we didn't clock back then were actually a shadow expression, like an issue. But now looking back, we can definitely see this is not what was mutually empowering to both sides. So Emily, do you want to take over the mic?
I can, of
and
course.
kind of share what you've, your perspective on that?
It's great actually being on the podcast as you're introducing the podcast, because I'm an avid listener of your podcast and your riffs, and it's like, oh, I get the real life version. This is great. Hi everybody, I am Emily Armitage, and I am a human design business coach and strategist for 6+ figure female founders. And I have done a lot of self-development work. I have been in this industry for a long time. I qualified as a bog standard life coach in 2019. So in terms of the online industry, I'm like a dinosaur. I've been here for so long, pre-COVID, like that's unheard of. So I've invested a huge amount in my own business, my own self-development, and it's been really interesting having these conversations with Alia over the last 6 or however months, about the industry and about what we have experienced that's the same and what we've experienced that's been slightly different, but the kind of core issues are still the same. And I, for one, have definitely been somebody who has looked for someone to save me. I've been investing in spaces and being into spaces like, this is it. This is the thing that's going to make me into this award-winning entrepreneur, and it's going to feel really easy. And this person just needs to upload all their information into me, and then I will be able to take that forth, and my business will grow and be amazing, and thinking that somebody else has the answer outside of me. And spoiler alert, that did not actually happen. And I have been in spaces where I was in them and it was a stretch. Like I was running before I could walk, and that was a good experience to have. But on the other side of that, I got to the end of it and I was like, Emily, what are you actually doing? Like, you need to have these foundational pieces in place. You cannot ignore that. It was very good for my identity. It was very good for my self-perception, because how I perceive myself isn't always how others perceive me. And I think that's true for many of us. But yeah, that kind of outsourcing my power definitely was something that I was guilty of. And still can be sometimes. You've got to self-check in. You've got to reclaim your energy and look where those leaks are. And it's down to your individual knowing and understanding and intuition and reality check on yourself as well. And I know, Alia, you've had similar but different experiences in other spaces too.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done the same thing, you know. I think one of the things that I speak about as well in like my communities and all this is that kind of like along the lines of what you're talking about, right? Like I think the first kind of stage of self-leadership maybe is going beyond the expectation that someone's going to save you, that someone has
Absolutely.
like this quick fix. And this industry is very dangerous in terms of that, because we're creating a lot of marketing around, you know, the soft, feminine, it gets to be easy thing, where we're teaching people to like lean back and receive when they're like not even at consistent, you know, 4-figure months, which is insanity. Like that's actual madness. And we're telling people there are shortcuts, right? And then we're combining this kind of marketing. It's obviously hitting a few really major points in our subconscious, right? Like the first one is that we always we love instant gratification, right? We all want to just create success as quickly as possible. Whereas if you look at anyone who's really successful, you will see there's a lot of work and grit and everything behind that, right? But we don't want to accept that. And then we are being told, oh, you can come into this program and you're going to be making consistent 6-figure months in like, or 5-figure months in like 3 months. And I'm like, that's madness. Like I used to actually fall for that shit. You know what I mean? But that, of course, the question at some level has to become like, why do you buy this? And then the other part is, right, like the fact that we were all raised with this like expectation that there's someone who knows better than us, right? We were always asked to like defer to some external authority. My cats are literally fighting right next to me. I'm gonna disturb that. Like she's growling, so we cannot have that. It's too close to the mic. But I think this is then like we are all kind of like we feel safe when there's someone who's the authority, right? And we were taught to seek someone who has the answers, and not just us, right? If we go ancestral, like religious paradigms across any culture were seek the guru, follow someone else's, you know, path, right? And so then we enter these spaces, on the one hand looking for a quick fix, and then on the other hand we're like wanting the authorities, someone who's going to save us. And then combined with a lot of us that we weren't saved as children, right, when we should have been, like we weren't actually kept safe by our parents, we're going to project all of that onto mentors. And I definitely was the same as you in the position where I bought into marketing, that I look back, I'm like, were you high? Like, did you actually think that this is what was going to take to, actually build a business and make money? No, right? Like, you just have to get good at different elements of what it takes to run a business. Like, you just have to become skilled, right? But I definitely used to do that. And the reality, I think, with the saviorism part is that, which is why it's so important to discuss it, it goes both directions, right? When we don't have balance in the subconscious, we're going to overcorrect in both directions. So what that means is we're going to simultaneously project onto people outside of us that they're going to save us, but we are also going to attract clients who want us to save them. And this is the part I think both of us experienced. I remember when we worked together, right? You definitely attracted certain clients, and I have in the past, not many, luckily, in this version of my business, but a few, where they just were like, well, I paid you, now you're supposed to save me, which is madness, right? That's not how it works. So I think the first part is really understanding that we have to clean this up, right, internally in ourselves, so that we can meet other experts, other leaders, other whatever we want to call them, really peers in this industry, like, as I like to call it, power to power, rather than a hierarchical dynamic. Is there anything else you would like to add to this?
I think what you said about the money exchange is interesting. And I know as we were preparing for this conversation, we talked quite a lot about that. Like the whole, if I've given you the cash, now you save me. Like, that's the exchange, when actually the exchange is far different, and there's so much nuance and so much tension and polarity. Like, there's always a grain of truth to everything, but it's how it gets twisted and shifted. Like the whole, being your feminine and relax and sit back. Yeah, that's true, but you can't, like, if you're in panic mode and forcing it, that's not going to happen. But at the same time, you need the structure to hold that flex and flow. You can't just expect to sit on your couch and eat grapes and watch Netflix and have millions of pounds coming in. Like, exactly. So both are true. And I think we're in this situation, particularly in marketing, where it's like, oh, you've got to pick a direction, pick a point, pick a niche, and it's the depth and the nuance and the duality is so lost. And then that's when we get in situations where you're like, oh, I've infused this money which is an inanimate object, with all my intent and all my hope and all my whatever, and I'm giving it to this person, and we're then told, oh, you invest to the level that you're able to attract, so that's the thing that alters your frequency. And there's so much around that that's incorrect.
That's just not true.
It's
just objectively not true.
But it also works both ways. Like that payment is an energetic exchange. The selling is an energetic exchange. That community, that interaction is an energetic exchange. And you may not be in a position where you're able to receive that coming the other way. Equally, the person on the other side may simply be awful at what they do and can't actually live up to the marketing hype that they've created, and both things can be true. So I think there's just so many depths and layers to this that we are sometimes guilty of not seeing, and just seeing the surface. It's this or it's that, it's right or it's wrong, and actually there's so much in between that you have to consider. So many variables.
I think both of us found that sometimes challenging in us building our businesses, because I would say we are the queens of nuance and depth, right? Like, everything we approach is like, yes, and there's this layer and this layer and that layer, right? Same as you're going to invest this amount of money and suddenly your life will transform. Well, yeah, if you're investing that money because you change the identity that now actually matches what you desire. But I've known people, right? I said this before when we were prepping. I know people who invested tens upon tens upon tens upon thousands into different coaching without anything changing for them, because every time they invested from frequency of someone's going to save me. So then what do you get back? I'm a victim. Like, and you're going to keep being a victim because you only want someone to save you if you feel like you're the victim. I want to like move into the other side, because I feel like this pedestalling dynamic and victimhood dynamic, right? Like, I think the important thing maybe to just point out, to kind of like find to go to the common denominator here, is that these sort of dynamics, right, are always built on hierarchy.
Yeah.
And it's not a hierarchy necessarily based on skill, because that hierarchy is, there's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong with seeking a person who's further along than you are and investing in them to get help. But that hierarchy should not be based on, well, now they're more worthy than you. Well, now they're like, it's like when you put someone on a pedestal, that's what a lot of people don't realize. And what I do a lot of in my work is you create an energetic obligation. You put it onto yourself that you have to be like that person in order to, let's say, have the success, the fame, the whatever. And so you don't realize it, but you're subconsciously beginning to emulate that person instead of being in your own authenticity. And there's an energetic cord between you. Like, it's very interesting. And these kind of dynamics like are always built on the hierarchy. Like, there's always hierarchy to them, which is what we're actually looking to dismantle, right? Where we are clearing these things. And I would say that the saviorism part is like the first level. But then the second level that I've observed in higher level groups. So let's say the mastermind I'm in now, where all of the women that are in this mastermind, almost all of them are at multi 6 or 7 figures. And this victimhood dynamic is no longer present. But what is then interesting there is that the next layer that then opens up is we're now in this mastermind, but these women are all operating in this hyper individualistic way. So we will pop into our group calls, we will get what we want, and we will leave. And I'm totally guilty of that. But then when you see what starts happening is that once we've cleared out this saviorism, victimhood, save me please, we then go into like, okay, then I'm going to do it all by myself. Then I'm going to just like move kind of like linearly upwards by myself, my own lane. And I'm not actually going to be creating more of this, what we talked about, the horizontal network, right? Where we actually tap into the mastermind, because that's what mastermind is supposed to be, right? If you want to
exactly, a true mastermind is you create as a third entity, a third energetic field almost that is a third mind. And you're right, like I've seen this, I've experienced this in other spaces that called themselves masterminds, and actually they're not. It's literally people that wanted that one-to-one. They're going in, they're tapping out, and there's no connection, there's no community, there's no, oh, my experience here is this is how it can help you. There's no sort of being witnessed and being seen. It's literally just access to that one person, almost like your spokes on a wheel going into the hub to get the answers and come back out again, rather than the circular flat dynamic of there's somebody facilitating this space, but we're co-creating this together.
Yeah, and I think it's such an interesting thing, because if we think in terms of energetics, right, when you create a space like this, the energy has actually space to like spiral and like circulate, which is actually if you think about how energy moves in nature, it moves in spirals, right? Like your connective tissue in the body moves in spirals. Like if you look in nature, you're going to find spirals everywhere. This is actually how the energy stays like contained within a system and keeps nourishing it while not stagnating. It doesn't actually move linearly, right? And it's so interesting now, because I think this is, I think, the evolution, right, that we're seeing as well, that we are kind of moving first through the stage of like self-empowerment, where we clear the programming and conditioning around victimhood and saviorism. But then we are kind of entering this completely new space of like, okay, so then how do we co-create in a horizontal way with other people? Because the reality is that we can move so much faster, we can go so much further when we get input and integrate input from other people as well, right? Being witnessed by others, being reflected back, like what you mentioned at the beginning. People see you differently to how you see yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
They actually see, like, I know for me, right, whatever room I step into, people are like, you're obviously, the authority in what you do, you're obviously like a leader, like everybody's like, it's not even a question. And then I'm there like behind the scenes being like, but what if I can't perform well enough, right? And when you're actually called out by other people in the industry and they're like, why are you still bullshitting yourself with this? Like, why are we still having this conversation? Like, it's not even a question. you can actually be pulled to so much of a higher standard than you will ever be able to hold yourself to.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, what so many of these spaces, because of these internalized dynamics, right? We're like, oh, this is the leader of the space, so they are like narrating the whole story, instead of being like, can we create this actual like hive mind that elevates everyone involved?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the timing of this is interesting. Like, I know there are a lot of rumblings in the spaces that I have been in, or I'm in, or the communities that are like, we're kind of done with this. Like the feeling, the collective vibe is, we've experienced this, we're done. And in human design, we're moving into 2027, which is a big year in human design. It's the cross of the sleeping phoenix comes in. So we're in this like bridge year right now, very bumpy. Think of it like an Indiana Jones style bridge, not a walk in the park style bridge. Yay. Cross of the sleeping phoenix, though, is all about individuality in terms of like self-expression, but it's also about connection on a very different level. And these horizontal, I can never remember the word, mushroom networks.
Mycelium
networks that kind of everybody as an individual is designed there for their purpose. Like you're here for a reason, at this as needed, and can help someone else who might be at a different income level than you, but doesn't have your skill set in another way. And I think people are craving spaces. I see these patterns happening. People are craving spaces as we're moving forward into that collective energy, because we're having this global background frequency shift that is calling us forward and calling us to do things in a different way.
I just think so many times, like when we're looking at things in business as well, like what we're doing now, the two of us, like imagine if I was like, no, I'm going to do this whole thing myself. Let me learn the entire human design so that I can apply it to my clients. Like that would be insane. Like I know the basics. I know enough that we can go into like a collaboration space together. And I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
But that would be insane, right? Instead of saying, hey, let me find another expert who's really brilliant at this. Like, let's join forces. Let's create something that was never done before. And we can co-create something that is, I could not do this myself ever. You could not do this yourself ever in terms of skills, but also in terms of the perspective that we bring to the table, like our experience. And now the energy field we are co-creating between the two of us is so much more refined and so much more powerful and so much more nuanced than each of us individually. And it's, I think, such an interesting thing. Like, again, if we look at larger patterns, right, we are collectively being forced right now to move into this horizontal way. We can call it the rise of divine feminine. We can call it the cross of the sleeping phoenix. We can call it, climate change, right? Like all of these things are pointing us in the same direction of we have to stop being so hyper individualistic. We have to join forces and build things on something real, which is collaboration and this balanced circulation of energy amongst multiple players.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think the cool thing is that our industry is actually perfectly positioned for us to be doing this, because we can innovate whatever we want to. Like we can wake up one day, right, the two of us, and we were like, let's do this, right? Which would be very hard in the corporate, like this would be almost impossible.
Talk about
but it's giving us this possibility to really like put all the things we say we've been doing, all the inner work, all the awareness, towards actually building something drastically different, redefining what leadership looks like and how we can co-create something so much greater in a collaborative manner.
Yeah, and I think as well, putting our spin on the whole mentorship versus mastermind space and what that truly is. And I don't call myself a mentor because I work with so many different people in so many different industries at so many different levels. Like I cannot possibly be a mentor for all those in the true sense of the word, because a mentor is somebody that has been there, done it, got the t-shirt, and you're wanting their advice and their recommendations. And I think this industry has it quite twisted that you're looking for a mentor who is going to then like copy paste what they have done to you, so you can follow their blueprint. And I think that's not what the true definition of that word is at all. But it has been co-opted and deformed and twisted because of these power dynamics that are at play. And then bringing that back to what we're actually doing, which is a facilitation of a true mastermind space where this third mind is created and everybody has as much input. And like, you've got to do the work here. It's not just about what you can take, it's about what you could give as well.
Yeah. And this is for us when we've been thinking about how to design this space, right? This has really been at the forefront of thinking about how can we create a space where, first of all, we can bring these power dynamics and these shadows to light and address them, like not pretend like, we're beyond this, because a lot of the time I think the whole coaching industry is stuck in like a massive freaking hypocrisy where we all say we're aware of these power dynamics, we are aware of these shadows, but we don't do anything about it. Then we enter these spaces and we're like, no, we are all so evolved. We are not triggered by others. We're definitely not triggered. Instead of admitting we are triggered, like it's okay. It's normal to be triggered when you are ascending to a new level. But if we pretend like it's not happening, and if we don't have a space and tools to address that, create, safe space for communication, for repair, we're never going to transcend, a lot of these old patterns like sisterhood wounding, witch wounding, patriarchal power dynamics that are implanted into every single one of us. And the intention really has been that we can create a space where that can unfold while we help you obviously grow and evolve in a way that's going to benefit your business, but then also create this powerful mastermind component. One thing that we're going to talk more about in another episode that we added to this mastermind is we're going to have a monthly spotlight session where every single person in the mastermind will be put in the center of the room, and every single member of the mastermind will be reflecting back, sharing, witnessing them, but also challenging them and holding them to a higher standard. So there is no space for hiding. There is no space for lurking. There is no space for you staying small in your own bullshit. And instead, you're actually forced to be seen and witnessed by others, which we've never seen done in any other space. I haven't.
No. I haven't seen that either. And I think we were both saying as well, like, we would find that really hard. Yeah. And like, I would enjoy that to a certain extent, but that would definitely trigger me. And that's kind of the point. Like, we're creating a space that we want to be in. Like, I am jealous of the people who are going to come into this because I want to be in here, but I am facilitating this space. And I'm perfectly placed, as are you, to do that. But what we are trying to do is look at what would benefit us as well, because we know that that is what is needed for more than just us.
Yeah. And after being in different groups and different rooms for God knows, like 5+ years for me, and for you as even more than that.
Yeah.
I think we've seen so many permutations of this, and I think it's become very clear that there are things that are seriously lacking, and they're just power leaks. There are a lot of power leaks, and these spaces are not designed to like really support returning power to the individual, because in order to do that, you need a combination. You need deep inner work. You need someone who's going to really call you out and point your triggers and make you like really take responsibility for that, show you how to transmute them. But then also you need to be put into the environments that are the most triggering, which are going to be groups of other women that are going to be challenging and dismantling these dynamics, and having a space where these conversations can actually unfold.
Yeah. Done with love.
A lot of love. Only love. In its different forms.
Exactly.
All right. I think we're going to close the episode here. We're at about a 30-minute mark. And then we're going to see you in the next episode, where we are going to be diving even deeper into some other aspects of different power dynamics and woundings that we see in these spaces.